Previously on Chaos Head Noah. Whose eyes are those eyes? Without waiting for a response from Neidhardt, he logged out of the chat room. A small sigh came from beyond the wall, followed by a light knocking sound. Signs that the occupant from the room beside him had stood up from their seat. And before long, the door to his cubicle, room 37, was opened. Isn't that the same room that Takumi uses? The girl didn't smile. Her expression remained grim as she took hold of the handles of his wheelchair. Rimi, I assume.
もう一人のあなたとは接触できた?
Yep. His answer to the girl's question, which had been asked rather abruptly, was brief and concise. Still being well attuned to the boy, the girl was able to sense a hint of tension in his tone.
何かあったの?
西条匠に接触してきたのは僕だけじゃなかった。おそらく監視がついている。
そっか。
西条くん、君はその女の人には会っていない。わかるね？
わからないよ。
じゃあもっと具体的に言おうか。君はその女の人には会えるはずがないんだ。もう7年間も君はこの病院から一歩も外に出ていないんだからね。君はこの病院の精神科に7年間入院している。そのことはわかるだろう。ここは閉鎖病棟だからお見舞いの人も来ない。入院患者さんも男女で別フロアに分けられていて行き来はできない。精神科の看護師は全員男だし、君の病室は完全に個室。窓もない。つまり君は7年間女性と接触したことがないんだ。君の家族も含めてね。思い出したかな?
To think a kiss would feel this amazing. I wanted her seductive, swirling tongue to violate my mouth forever. My arms wrapped up around her waist. She was very thin, since she was 2D and all. Flat as a board, yet squishy and voluptuous at the same time. Hey Shogun! You're dying to help me get my Johnson off. I just wanted to let you know that. You're dying for a good cause. I promise. Wasn't this basically the same as kissing paper, though? But it felt so incredibly good that I didn't care. She probably tastes like paper, too. Serotan was Terra sexy. Terra as in, like, what? Terra or as in Earth? Because I do agree, she is about as sexy as a rock. Was this really what a Phantasm concert was like? I was also beginning to lose myself in the atmosphere. I could feel a hazy mist engulfing my mind. Oops. I felt excitement toward what was to come, but also dread. I felt superior, having been chosen by Fess, but also completely entranced by ecstasy. I thought I was going insane. Like time, the world had stopped completely. Fess's laughter reached my ears once more. Even in this flood of sound, I could hear her voice clear as day. What a sexy voice. Just hearing the sound of it put me on the verge of fainting. but Fess was seducing me into diving further and further into this melting pot of pleasure. Her teeth lightly sank into my earlobe. She let out a sigh right into my ear. And then, she whispered,
その目、誰の目?
Hey, we got something else here. Diagnostic results. You are completely and utterly delusional. Why, thanks for noticing. I'm glad someone finally gets it. It's very possible that you can no longer live without your delusions. You constantly fall in love with two-dimensional characters, and you wished you could walk straight into your computer screen. Real life will never be fulfilling to you. It's too late. But there's no need to feel guilty about it. It doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. Surrender yourself fully to your delusions, to your imagination. As long as you're happy, nothing else matters. I just ask that you stay cognizant of your own health. Always make sure to eat, take care of yourself when you're sick, and take care of yourself in general. As long as you do that, you may continue your blissful, luscious, delusional life, where you may never have to worry about the pain of reality again. Your delusions shall never betray you. A word from Takumi. Did you know, if you stay a virgin till you turn 30, you become a wizard and get magic powers. That's why 3D sucks shit. It's totally worthless. A girlfriend that lives inside your head is the best kind of girlfriend after all. Everyone knows that. That was not a word from Takumi. That was a word from Grim, aka Hazuki. Don't be a plagiarist, Takumi. Go to the 2D world. What was that supposed to mean? Even you can be a hero.
僕に言ってるの?
We'll fight together. You're not into 3D, right? You couldn't care less about it?
いや、そうだけど。
Neidhardt was speaking to me, the player controlling him. What the fuck? Did he have a will of his own after all? Place your hand on the monitor. When you do, you'll be able to enter Baselard as Nishijo Takumi. The password is, whose eyes are those eyes?
だが断る。二次元世界に行くならせっかくだから僕はエロゲの世界を選ぶぜ。バゼラードはお前に任せるよ、ナイトハルト。手が俺の腕が。
Misumi-kun collapsed on the spot, frantically picked up his hand, and tried desperately to reattach it to his arm. His screams echoed throughout the hallway. All the students around us screamed and ran off in a panic. As for Fess, she was still holding her sword, calmly admiring the chaos. Then, for the second time, she looked at me. Her red tongue slowly cleaned her lips as a fierce blush dyed her cheeks, her smile stretching the color across her face.
気持ちいい。
Wow, that was fun. No such carnage had unfolded. While I was over here drowning in my moronic delusions, Fess was murmuring something in a low voice, only to up and disappear soon after. And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Chaos Head Noah. So who's ready to continue our hunt for the Crying Sky ending? I know I am. Doubly so because I'm very interested to see what other new stuff I'm going to see along the way. I'm not gonna lie, I thought we would have already gotten close to the last chapter of the story here, and yeah, we're already at chapter 3. And last episode showed me a crap ton of new content I haven't seen before, and not just with Delusion Triggers I hadn't chosen the first time around either, but whole new scenes that are showing up here and adding further context to other previous events that I didn't have before. So there's plenty of new stuff I definitely was not expecting to get, and well, I'm certainly not complaining. And I'm quite curious to see what more I'll see along the way. And I feel like I'm repeating myself at this point, so let's just hop to it, shall we? Okay, I just want to double check. I'm on chapter 3, yeah. Okay. Well, the guide doesn't say anything about Orihara here, so... I'm trying to remember. I selected the green one last time, right? So let's see what this does. For now, I should forget about the undersized transfer student. What really mattered was Rimi. Something needed to be done about her. I'm come to take your lunch money! A voice rang out from the back of the classroom. It was Rimi. What did she want? Correction, what do I want? Kozue-chan? Who was that? Who the hell is Rimi talking to? Ah, so Delusion Rimi actually knows her by name in this Delusion, eh?
No,
wait a minute, that's right. Teacher already priorly introduced her by name to the class, so of course Takumi's mind would already have that knowledge by extension. Wouldn't? Yeah, okay. I did. Ignore me. I'm being stupid. Their conversation just kept on going, leaving me in the dust. Dazed and confused, I found myself unable to think straight. In other words, if life goes on as normal for you. The transfer student wore an innocent smile. What the? Why were the two of them talking so friendly-like? Don't tell me they were friends or something. Oh god. Could the transfer student be one of the demon girl's underlings? Frozen in place, I could do nothing but listen as the two continued their carefree conversation. Thinking about it now, I guess the real interesting thing about this particular delusion is the fact that we're actually hearing Kozue talk in this, because if I remember events correctly leading up to this point, Takumi never actually heard her speak, either using her telepathy or let alone her actual voice, so kind of interesting that his delusion, of all things, wasn't able to know what she sounds like.
Rimi-san, yoroshiku ne. Kochira koso. これから楽しくなりそうだね。
Hey, I see the screen darkening.
すごく。
Oh, that face! I know I should probably be scared to see that face, but it's just too funny to me. It's from Kozue of all things. But maybe that's because the last story route kind of made me soften up to her, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why I'm finding this funny. I should be scared. Maybe, I think. Even though I know nothing's gonna happen anyway, I don't know what to feel, okay? I don't know what to feel.
だよね。楽しみ。楽しみ。ねえ、 そう思わない？思うよね。西条匠。
I agree. We're all gonna have a lot of fun when I'm buying all the food with your guys' lunch money. Don't worry, I'll share.
ああ、どうやら折原は緊張しているようだな。よし、挨拶はいい。
Well, that was surprisingly short. The homeroom's teacher voice brought me back to my senses. The transfer student was sheepish as usual, not uttering so much as a peep. Words could not express how thankful I was that it had all just been a delusion. For now.
みんな、この子は折原梢だ。仲良くしてやってくれ。折原、席は一番後ろだ。席についていいぞ。
The transfer student made her way to the back without saying a word, keeping her head low to the ground. Her seat was 4 rows behind mine. Should I pretend to watch her so I could catch a glimpse of the people behind me? Problem was, I draw a lot of unwanted attention to myself. I didn't want any dokyuns trying to pick a fight. Oh, don't go staring at her just because she's cute. Or some BS like that. If you're a real Chad, you would stare at all the cute girls all you like here and not give a shit what anyone about anyone objecting to you to it. Just saying, Takumi. I was at a loss for what to do. Should I look now, or should I wait until class is over? My head still firmly pressed against my desk, I squeezed my fists tightly. Forget it. I was a coward. Just a thought that, if I turned around, my eyes would meet with that girl's sent shivers down my spine.
その人って
Eh?
悪い人なの？だったらね、本当に殺してあげてもいいよ。
Well, if by baddie you mean bad boy, I can be. The transfer student walked right by my seat. Taken aback, I glanced at her face. Our eyes met, only for her to immediately avert her gaze and continue walking. What was that voice? No doubt it had just been another one of my delusions. I've been feeling overwhelmed by them lately, almost as if reality and delusion were blending together. Still lacking the courage to turn around, my body stiffened even further, squeezing inward in my seat. I tried to focus on staying completely still, desperately trying to avoid drawing Rimi's attention. Well, again, I don't know what else to say other than that was disappointingly short. Okay, now this one. Okay, it wants me to select negative. So let's go negative. Only 5 calls on the list. Looks like I won't have to worry about any new delusion triggers until chapter 4 now. So I guess I can just select until my heart's content until I get to number 17. Again, according to the guide I'm referencing. There's no one here. I'm pretty sure I selected the red delusion the first time around, so let's do green. Let's have something happy this time happen. In my head. No one came out. Maybe there really wasn't anyone here. Fine. If that was the case, then... I grabbed the boxed lunch off the counter and headed straight for the automated door. I stood in front of the door and it opened automatically. But just as I was about to step outside...
待て。
The employee finally emerged from the back room behind the cash register. He was a bleary, gloomy-looking guy, almost likely a college student. He leaned over the counter and glared at me with dull eyes.
お前、今万引きしようとしただろ。
Yes, as now that you mention it, I believe I did. Bad boy, Takumi! You should have given him some chump change first. I shrugged my shoulders and walked back to the register.
あんたが出てこないからでしょ。
すいません、居眠りしてました。
The employee bowed his head with a shit-eating grin. It felt like he was mocking me. I was pissed. This convenience store clearly didn't give a shit about training its part-timers.
しねえ。当然タダで持って帰ってもいいよね。
No, you can't, Takumi.
は？それとこれとは別じゃないですか。
あんたの責任なんだからあんたが代金立て替えろよ。
That ain't how it works, Chief.
ふざけんなニート野郎。
この
Well, you are a fucking neat, aren't you? Whoops. Sorry about that, I bumped my desk. I swung at him without thinking. Uh-oh! My incredibly fast straight punch him square in the nose. With a pathetic yelp, he flew backwards, collided the shelf, then fell to the ground. World's weakest convenience store clerk, everybody. When someone like him gets sent flying from a punch by Takumi, of all people. A magnificent punch, if I do say so myself. Too bad it's not real.
すいません。
As blood gushed from his nose, the employee got down on his hands and knees and bowed with tears in his eyes. You know, I was beginning to wonder how exactly this was supposed to be a positive delusion, and now it's becoming clear to me. You just want to feel like a tough guy, Takumi.
お金は結構さ。だから帰ってください。
分かればいいんだよ。
While I was at it, I swiped 4 of the dorayaki that were on display by the register and headed for the door, satisfied. I'd like to see you try to do this with an armed officer.
二度と来るかバカ。
Oh, I'm sure he'd be grateful, actually. Throwing out that line to get the perfect last word, I leisurely exited the store. Yeah, I definitely preferred the negative delusion over this one for sure. This one just felt very anticlimactic. 2 out of 10. Bored to tears. Several minutes had passed while I was having my delusion. There was still no sign of any employees. I had no intention of staining my hands with Dokuun behavior, despite my delusion just now. That being said, I also couldn't bring myself to yell out for an employee either, so I just stood there in the deserted store without moving. I wanted to believe that the employee was just taking a nap, so I waited for another 5 minutes. But while I waited, no employees showed up, nor did any customers enter the store. There wasn't even as much as a sound. Again, very disappointing delusion. Still in chapter 3, I believe. Okay, what's the context for this? I'm trying to refresh my memory a little bit. Gonna go check up on her real quick. I want to say I selected the green option first time around, so let's go negative. Dang, I'm good. I had to say something. I had to say something. But... something! There you go, did it for you. What should I say? Say something. The more I thought about it, the more trapped I felt, and the more my mind went blank. That's you. That's what you sound like. Suddenly, Rimi sniffled. Takumi, not Rimi. I wasn't mocking Rimi. She's cool. She's fine. Takumi, not so much. I was so surprised I looked up out of reflex. She was crying. I didn't know why, but tears were falling from her eyes in large drops. I was getting increasingly confused, but I stayed silent like an idiot, unable to think of anything else to do. Maybe she feels neglected by Takumi in this not Takumi by Misumi in this world. Well, then again, there is another Takumi whirling around out in the background somewhere. So I mean, I guess that's not completely out of the realm of possibility that maybe she's crying over him right now. Rimi murmured in a shaky voice. Clearly I didn't read back far enough. I needed more context, because I still completely misread this whole situation. Yeah, you are a very meddlesome one, I will give you that here, but we all know that's not going to stop you. You're a lady on a mission, after all, and I mean, hey, I can respect your tenacity if nothing else. Rimi turned on her heel and quickly made her way out of the classroom. I wanted to yell after her. No, you're wrong, I wanted to say. I almost said, no, I'm wrong. Well, yeah, I'm wrong too, but, well, so is she. I don't hate you at all. I just had no idea what to do or say. I waffled over whether or not I should chase after her. But in the end, I couldn't leave my seat. If I did chase after her, what would I even say? Could I say anything? You could say something. Seriously, what would I even say? I like you? I'm glad we're friends? I couldn't do that. No, because honesty is your kryptonite, isn't it, Takumi? I didn't know her. It was true that I'd been saved thanks to her. But to me, she was still some mystery person who appeared completely out of nowhere. I know you probably hate me, was what she'd said. But I couldn't tell her whether or not that was true. After all, I didn't have the memories to help me decide whether I hated her or liked her. Don't you tisk at me! That was when Misumi-kun, who was supposed to have been with the transfer student, came back. He gave me a sympathetic look. How sad. Even Delusion Misumi is getting the brunt end of the stick here. He clearly got rejected by Kozupi. Why else would he be back here? Oh yeah, and what's that? Clearly, Delusion Rimi does not know Takumi at all, if she honestly thinks that. What the hell? When had that happened? I held my head and shook it violently.
だってわからないんだ。さっぱりわからないんだよ。
わかるかわからないか、そんな理屈の話じゃねえだろ。ま、結局お前は一生ニートやってろってこった。
Oh, the horror. Being a NEET for the rest of your life. The horror. The horror! I'm not gonna lie. I can think of a lot of worse fates that Takumi could be stuck with here, and I'm talking about the non-violent kind, because we already got plenty of the violent kinds just in the last story arc alone. So yeah, him being a NEET for the rest of his life wouldn't be the worst life for him to live, if we're being honest here. After that, I didn't get a chance to talk to Rimi all the way until I graduated. Oh, time skip! Even when we saw each other in class, we would both avoid each other. And then, after graduation, I became a NEET. What, you weren't already one before? Just like Misumi-kun had predicted. And I never saw Rimi again for the rest of my life. For want of a nail! So that was what the bad end would probably be like. You're actually probably not wrong, thinking about it now. Pretty damn depressing. More like anticlimactic. But it was still true that I didn't know anything about Rimi. Like I'd thought, the only option I had was just to keep quiet and not do anything.
Taku?
Rimi, who had been silent the entire time, finally called out to me, albeit hesitantly. But I couldn't respond due to how sudden it was. To her, it probably felt like I was ignoring her. In my head, I knew I couldn't keep acting like this. But in the end, I still couldn't get myself to do anything.
大丈夫?
This time, I nodded frantically. It probably made me look pretty suspicious.
そう。だったらいいんだ。
Rimi's voice was gentle. I could hardly believe it, but she seemed like she was going to continue patiently being with me, even though I was being silent. Are you okay? Was what she'd said. I felt a sudden urge to ask her something. I wanted to ask. Back when we met in front of 107, what did it look like to you? And we're done. I look forward to getting on Nanami's route where I get to see Takumi get insulted by her more and more for being a jackass. That will never not be funny to me. Okay, we're now here in the train. Anything on this? Nope, I'm not seeing anything. I'm pretty sure I selected a negative delusion this time around, so let's go with this. I automatically stopped dead in my tracks. Thoughts ran through my head frantically. If I ran away, what would she do? Would she swing her D-sword at me while she chased me? When I tried to envision it happening, it freaked me out way too much, so I hurriedly shook the delusion out of my head. Conversely, what if I were to just walk straight in instead? She would get a much better impression of me, and maybe then she wouldn't be so violent. Maybe she'd even be in good enough mood that she'd be interested in selling her D-sword to me. I didn't think she'd give it up that easily, but maybe I could at least get her to tell me where she'd bought it from. You see, here's the thing, Takumi. When it comes to buying wares or merchandise or what have you, the thing that you're buying from inherently has some sort of value to it, whether it be a resource that you might need, like food or spice, or maybe even a metal to help you make something that you yourself know how to make. Point is, everything has value to it in some way, shape, or form, whether it be a resource or it has some other form of value attributed to it. But that whole thing is required that whole thing requires the thing in question to actually have some materialistic value. A D-sword, since it's not made from, since it technically doesn't exist at all and doesn't therefore have any actual material value to it unless it's real booted, I don't really think you could actually technically put a price on that, even if a person could part ways with a D-sword, if it wasn't already intrinsically tied to the wielder in question. So, yeah, thinking about it, a D-sword would literally be worthless in any form of monetary sense. I'm sorry, I don't know why I went on that little tangent. On top of that, she seemed to have been waiting for me. In other words, that meant she'd taken some form of interest in me. She looked scary, but as was often the case with tsundere types, she might have actually been pretty nice in reality. That could just be wishful thinking, though. A tsundere doesn't have to be outwardly nice. You just gotta crack the shell and go for the yolk inside, and then you get to the sweet stuff. Maybe I should use a different analogy next time I talk about tsunderes, because I'm not sure why, but the analogy I just used just seems to rub me off the wrong way for some reason. Then again, it wasn't like I was going to get called just because I went inside. Surely that was true. We were right in the middle of Shibuya, after all. Right in front of the Hachiko statue. There were tons of people surrounding us. Killing me in public, in front of all of them, would have been suicide. I took a single deep breath, gathered my resolve, and then I stepped onto the train. What's this? I mean, if there were so many people here, why wouldn't anyone come into the train since I'd gone on? Wait, that's it? Just that one sentence? Okay, the guide now says I want to be neutral with you at this time around, huh? Okay. What do I do? What should I do? I tried desperately to think of a way out of this situation, but it was no use. I couldn't think clearly. She had taken me completely by surprise. My mind had gone completely blank.
昨日あなたの家に行ったんですけど、いませんでしたよね。
The only thing in there was my pile of shame, both on my bed and on my shelves. I know.
夜まで待ってたんですけど。でも私を避けようとする西条くんの気持ちはよくわかります。私西条くんのこと騙してたわけだし。
If you acknowledge that, then just stay away from me. I have nothing to say to any of Shogun's underlings. Anyone who traps a weak person like me is a demon. Yua looked him down once. She looked like she was hesitating to say something. But then, after a moment, she very clearly, said a single phrase.
その目誰の目知ってますよね。知らないなんて言わせません。ヴァンパイアのダイイングメッセージです。ネットで公表されたことで渋谷で大流行中の言葉。でも私流行る前から知ってました。ヴァンパイアより前にこの言葉を使っている人がいたから。将軍前に見せましたよね。ナイトハルト、西条君と将軍のチャットログ。そこで将軍が書き込んでました。その目誰の目って。そして
You inched your face closer and closer to mine. Her tone of voice was calm, but the eyes shine behind her glasses were ice cold. She was staring at me. I looked away.
将軍はあなた。
She's not wrong, if you look at it from a certain point of view. In other words, what?
お願いです、西条君。もう。
With the benefit of hindsight, it really is almost incredible in the way how close Yua actually gets to the truth of the matters, while at the same time still missing some really key details to help fully explain the context of everything that she comes across in her investigation. Like, case in point, her deduction that Takumi and Shogun are the same person. That is technically the correct conclusion, but the exact reasons behind it are wrong. In other words, she's right for the wrong reasons on a lot of things. Alright, now what does this one say? That I want to be at the negative for this, huh? Okay. Terrifying thoughts ran through my head. I sat up and looked around the park once again. The man who had been sitting on a bench while staring at his cell phone was taking quick glances at me. Or at least that's what it felt like. Right then, a man with a stern face entered the park and sat down on the pipish fence, opened a newspaper, and started reading. In a dark place with next to no streetlights, a man, seemingly a businessman, who had been walking quickly through the park, was now standing at the edge of the overpass, gazing down at the street below. The policeman who had been talking to the homeless man was now looking at me while contacting someone on his police radio. Cold sweat crept down my back. No. Were these guys cops? Maybe they were tailing me. If that was true, I was completely surrounded. Yua had already made up her mind and decided that I was a murderer. And then, based on her delusions, she'd probably gone and reported it to the police. I couldn't help but mutter that out loud, albeit at a volume low enough so that no one could hear me. Was this another part of Shogun's evil plan? I didn't do it. I didn't kill anyone. I'm not the murderer. Why should I, a coward who couldn't talk to people worth shit, be treated like a murderer and then subsequently chased by the police? Why did I have to get caught up in Yua's insane delusional bullshit? Regardless, I couldn't stay here. My chest still hadn't stopped pounding, and it hurt to breathe, but I still had to get out of here. I made my way over to the overpass, trying my best to look as natural as possible. Right in front of me was a staircase, leading down to Meiji-dori. I'd go down it, and then I'd escape using the road. As I reached the middle of the overpass, a new figure appeared on the stairs. It was a woman, and judging from the suit, an office worker. She was holding a cell phone to her ear and talking with a blank expression on her face as she walked up the stairs. Could she be a detective too? I passed by her, my heart pounding the entire time.
その目誰の目っていう T シャツが流行ってるわよ。今度の日曜日に買いに行くわ。原宿の竹下通りに売っているから。
I felt really uncomfortable. Her speaking style was really awkward. It felt strangely theatrical. Probably because that's what it is. A theatrical performance. Who the hell was she talking to anyway? Who was on the other end of the phone? Was she even talking to anyone at all? Probably not. But in the end, the woman took no actions against me. I finally made it to the stairs, and it was with relative ease. Upon reaching them, I looked back toward the park. The cop wasn't following me. He was standing in the same place as before, still talking into his police radio. One of the homeless people who had been sitting on the ground was starting to get up, but none of the other homeless people were moving. But then, before I knew it, the man on the bench and the man reading the newspaper both got up and started walking toward me. The two men then glanced at each other. They were exchanging looks, or at least it seemed like it. I then turned my gaze toward the office worker once again. She had passed me a few moments ago, but now she turned her head to look at me. The second our eyes met, she turned back away at the start. Her cell phone was still held up to her ear, but she wasn't speaking anymore. I was hit with an amount of fear that I had never experienced before, and I immediately bolted down the stairs. Run, bitch, run! As I ran down Meiji-dori toward the station, I looked up at the overpass. The office worker was leaning over the railing and pointing at me. And it wasn't just her. Two men were sprinting across the overpass. They really were cops. All of them were cops. Shit. 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 This is all Yua's fault. She had set me up. Should I just tell him I was innocent? But even if I did, I couldn't get away from the fact I was literally running away from the police right now. Besides, I was sure that the police would find some way to pin it on me regardless. They would never believe in an otaku freak like me. I didn't have time to think about what would happen next. For now, I just need to get away from Yua and the police. That was the sole thought occupying my mind. Hello, Ayase. Nothing here on the guide. I'm just gonna save my game real fast. What did I choose here last time? I think it was a green one. No, I remembered incorrectly. Well, there goes my lucky streak. That camisole with its cross-shaped design was downright criminal. And I couldn't help but think that, It didn't look like she was wearing a bra underneath. Maybe she really wasn't wearing a bra. That would be very interesting, I think. What kind of underwear did Fess usually wear? I wondered. Thank God you're not dealing with Kosepi right now, because otherwise she'd be reading your mind and she'd probably kill you on the spot. Probably the sexy kind. Like black. Or red. But personally, I want them to be nice and clean white. That's literally the only difference between the two different delusion triggers. Nope. Oh. Yeah, I forgot. That particular delusion actually probably influenced this scene, and it looks like I basically got my confirmation that yes, it does. Was Fess, only wearing white lingerie. Fess was standing right beside me. Fess was standing on the stairs right in front of me. But two of the same person in the same place. And not only that, but one of them was incredibly sexy, wearing only her underwear. Completely and utterly flustered, I relentlessly snapped back and forth between the two Fesses over and over again, comparing them. I don't know, I think there's something to be said about the goth look that she's got going on here. I can see the appeal. They were exactly the same, right down to their facial features, height, and hairstyles. The only differences were their clothes, and whether or not they were carrying a sword. They weren't twins or anything like that. They didn't just look alike. They were one and the same. I was used to seeing girls in their underwear in eroge. But here, I couldn't handle it for some reason, because it's 3D, am I right? I had run into Nanami's smelly, piss-stained underwear countless times, so you'd think this would be no big deal. But for whatever reason, I couldn't get myself to follow that line of logic. Fess was standing in the middle of this disgusting underpass, only in her underwear. I felt like I was about to lose my mind from how unbelievable that situation was. Wait a minute. Oh, there we go. Even though I knew I shouldn't look at her, I couldn't help but feel like this was close to stealing a glance anyway. It took an insane amount of willpower to keep my eyes down.
Gomen!
I automatically apologized. Because I knew that only a few minutes ago, I'd had a delusion about this very thing. Fess wearing white lingerie. Two Fesses said this at the same time, as if they could see right through me. I jumped, startled. I could feel my face rapidly turning red. I needed an excuse. I needed a way out of this. If 3D Girl labeled me as a pervert, it'd be over. I'd be socially obliterated. You don't have a social standing to speak of. Okay, wait. While that may be important, the more pressing matter is, what the hell is happening?! Suddenly, the conversation I was having with Fess transitioned to something completely unrelated. But I was actually somewhat relieved by that. I expected Fess to start treating me like a pervert, but she just ignored it like nothing had even happened. Did this have something to do with D-swords? If not, then I didn't care. I had to somehow find a way to get Fess to tell me how to get my hands on a real D-sword.
池袋ではなくて渋いこの街の名前が一人歩きしてしまうくらい
Both in front of and behind me, the same words are being spoken from the two fesses at the exact same time. Perfect synchronization. It gave me a somewhat strange feeling. Had Fest split in half? Were both of them the real Fests? Or were both of them imposters?
日本中の人たちに刻まれている若者の街と君なぜかしら
Why? Well, that has absolutely nothing to do with me.
ファッションの街だからお店がたくさんあるから流行の発信者だからよくテレビに映るから交通の便がいいから違うわドリ
The two Fesses paused for a moment. Being watched from both in front and from behind started to make me feel uncomfortable.
大いなる意志よ高次存在もっとわかりやすく言えば神の意志だ
This is bad. My rational side warned me. Could this be? Maybe she was trying to recruit me to some sketchy religious cult. I began to feel uneasy. Man, maybe I should just get the heck out of here. But upon hearing the next thing Fest said to me, I realized I no longer had that option.
理想度もまたその意志による導きよ
Doesn't just life suck when he keeps taking away all your options? Now that I got a second good look at that image of the group dive video, I saw a girl with long blonde hair that looked a lot like Yua. Surprised I didn't notice that little detail first time around. Okay, now, where am I? Okay, I'm in Chapter 5 now. So this is Chapter 5. First trigger of the chapter at school. So I want to do positive here. Alright, what are you going to show me this time? I left the classroom and headed for the school entrance, refusing to let my eyes wander anywhere. As I made my way out, I stuck to my usual routine, walking as close to the wall as I could, all while keeping my head low so that I wouldn't stand out. The final bell had already rung a little bit ago, so while the students on cleaning duty or doing club shit were still around, basically everyone who'd opted to go straight home already had. School always felt somewhat lonely, or even wistful after the final bell rang. No matter where I went, it always felt that way. Whether they were ancient buildings, made out of wood, or newer structures like Sume. Well, not that I'd ever set foot in any wooden school buildings in anything other than Eroge. As I unconsciously walked through the corridor under the setting sun, my mind wandering around all sorts of inconsequential stuff, I spotted a strange figure coming toward me. It was a single girl waddling forward, carrying 2 large cardboard boxes. Maybe she wants us to hop in one of the boxes and go wander around the campus grounds, tactical espionage style. I couldn't see her face behind the boxes, but she probably couldn't see a thing in front of her. Someone was asking to eat shit. If this were an eroge, this scenario would 100% result in us running into each other and me tripping a flag. I thought about attempting to do just that, but concluded that it'd be best to keep it as just a thought. Because in reality, I didn't want to actually do it. Sure you don't. Instead, my alarm bell started going off. There was a legitimate possibility that she was one of Shogun's assassins. She's holding 2 boxes. I mean, unless she has a way to get a knife get a knife attached to her leg or whatever to come poking out, and then she kicks you with it. I don't really think you got much to worry about until she just suddenly decides to drop the boxes, turn towards you, all threatening like, and well, at that point you'd have reason to be concerned. But she would still likely require, a good second or two to actually get into a fighting stance, get a weapon out, get whatever. And as long as you were quick enough, you could react. But unfortunately, I know you're not a fighter. Let alone someone who would probably have the strength to fend off a random girl. So, yeah, you'd be fucked regardless, now that I think about it. You really could benefit from going to the gym. Just saying. Stay away from her. Be extremely careful. I paid careful attention to each of her steps. She kept drawing nearer, sometimes tilting to the left or to the right. I, meanwhile, kept walking along the left wall of the corridor. As the girl started moving to her right, I sped up. We then passed each other without any issues. But right then, I heard something fall, and I quickly turned my gaze downward without even thinking. Ah, handbook. Someone had dropped their student handbook. I stopped in my tracks.
Huh?
Had the girl with the boxes dropped it? Oh, too bad. You tried to avoid tripping her, and yet you ended up tripping the flag anyway. Poor you. As I stared at the student handbook, my thoughts began to wander. Doubt arose in my mind. Why had that student handbook fallen at that exact moment? It was way too conspicuous. It was practically begging to get picked up. Was it a trap? Could be. Had she dropped it on purpose? Perhaps. The girl had been carrying boxes with both hands. If she was keeping it in a pocket, all she'd have to do is wiggle her hips fast enough and it'd probably come flying out. Just saying. Her hands were occupied. If the student handbook had been in her skirt pocket, it would have been entirely impossible for her to take her out and drop it. However, I hadn't seen where it had fallen from. Maybe the girl had been holding it from the very beginning, hiding it beneath the boxes. I wasn't sure. It might have not been on purpose. The more realistic option was that it was just a coincidence. I followed the girl's figure with my eyes. Or tried to, anyway.
Huh?
At that precise moment, the girl took a turn down the hall and disappeared. I had only seen her for a split second. She hadn't looked like someone I knew. Her hair had been short, I think? No, may have been long, actually. I couldn't say for sure which. Naturally, I hadn't seen her face either. When I passed her, it had been hidden behind the boxes. The student handbook and I were now all alone in the hallway. Surprise heroin route. Student handbook route unlocked. The sensible options probably were to either pick it up and deliver it to the staff room, or rush after the girl and ask her about it. But I was hesitant to carry out either. Well, at least if you go with the former option, you don't have to deal with the girl herself. I looked around me. There were no other students in sight. I could somewhat make out the sound of girls laughing happily in the distance. It probably wasn't a trap. Or maybe that's what they want you to think. The handbook's owner had already left. How could this possibly end up being a trap? Could there be a small bomb inside the handbook? No, that was way too unrealistic. If I picked up the handbook right at that moment, nothing would happen. Yeah, nothing was gonna happen. Yeah, go ahead, jinx yourself. I want an excuse to laugh at you some more. Just in case, I should check the handbook to see who the girl was. She could have been one of Shogun's underlings. How would you even be able to tell if you already admitted that you didn't recognize her? So how would you honestly be able to tell? Just from looking at the handbook. Like what? Do you expect there to be a little tag under her ID somewhere that says employer Shogun or something? Is that what you expect to find? I should check her name, class, and photo, and then leave the handbook here. I couldn't be fucked to go after her and give it back. Nevertheless, I still carefully scanned the area just to be sure no one was around. Then, after I was sure I was alone, I picked up the handbook and casually opened it to the first page. Well, how about that? It was a trap. Oh, I think I could still see some of the text, actually. Barely. See an ID number. Cool. Not ringing any bells. 69, date of birth 69/69/1984. Clearly she's from another planet or another universe, because 69 months in a whole year, at least that amount, sounds like absolute hell. Expiration, April 2nd, 2008. School name, okay, it's the same one. Principal Tadano Yoshiro. Also, I gotta say, I liked the little emoticon face that was added here. Clearly, someone's trying to be cheeky with us too, on top of already screwing with us. I hurriedly threw the handbook away. What was that? I've never been so creeped out before. It was so unbelievably eerie. It didn't just scare me. I felt sick to my stomach. This was very clearly malicious, blatant harassment aimed specifically at me. I agree, actually. Who would go so far as to do this? I got a couple ideas. Wait, of course. It had to be the girl from before. That girl actually was Shogun's underling. She had to be. I'd only glanced at the student handbook, but all the information that should have been on the first page, such as the name, the birth date, and the class, was blacked out. In addition, the portrait that should have been attached had been removed. It felt like I was going to puke. I was hit with an intense wave of nausea. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. Covering my mouth, I moved toward the stairs. I ran through the courtyard with no real destination in mind, until I could no longer hold back the urge to vomit. Disgusting. The second I fell to my knees, the entire contents of my stomach began spilling out. I'm pretty sure I selected a positive delusion in this place, and it turned out to be very erotic in nature. I wonder if I selected... I wonder if I were to select a negative one, it would also somehow include some eroticism in there, but of a much more horrific variety. One way to find out, am I right?
叩き割ってあげる。
Destroy it for me, you say?
はい。
Destroy it? Destroy what? That came out of nowhere. I never would have thought Rimi was the type to act like such a dokyun. Despite my confusion, Rimi continued to talk very seriously.
その CD を持ってる人は呪われちゃうの。タク、知らなかったでしょ。
What is this, the Ring 2.0?
私の調べた情報によるとね、ニュージェネの被害者はみんなその CD を買った人なの。フェスの予言は CD を買った人にだけ当てはまるフェスの呪いなの。
That couldn't be. Yeah, Fess is too. Yeah, Fess is definitely not creepy enough here to be a Sadako 2.0. I'm sorry, Rimi, but you're just full of it.
ニュージェネ事件は全部フェスの仕業。急がないと次に死ぬのはタクだよ。
I don't know. I don't know, Rimi. Does Ayase randomly crawling out of my computer monitor out of the blue for no reason whatsoever really sound like such a bad thing? I don't think so. Suddenly, I came back to myself. Rimi was waving her hand in front of my face, her eyebrows furrowed in confusion.
どうしたの？急に意識がどこかに飛んじゃってたみたいだけど。
It's your fault.
あ、いや、
He cursed
なんで
me.
も。
What was up with that delusion? I felt like I was gonna piss myself.
その調子だと話聞いてなかったでしょ。
No, not really.
じゃあもう一回言うけど、私のお気に入り CD を貸すっていうので手を打ってくれないかな。
は？
ねえねえ、いいでしょ？お願いします、この通り。
あ。
Life was a cruel mistress. Though I suppose it was my fault for expecting anything. The key to happiness, Takumi. Keep your expectations low. So that way, if your expectations aren't subverted, you won't be disappointed. And if they do end up being subverted or rather exceeded, you'll feel much more pleasantly surprised than you otherwise would be if you had a more shall we say upbeat temperament and outlook on life. I'm not joking. You should be an even bigger cynic than you are now. It will help you in the long run. Oh, whoops, forgot to read that. When I agreed to Rimi's proposal, she delightedly struck a victory pose. That sight was so amusing to me that, despite the critical situation I was in, I couldn't help but laugh. Back then, Ayase had cloned herself right before my very eyes. I hadn't witnessed the exact moment when it happened. All I knew was that when I turned around, another Ayase was there, and she'd been wearing lingerie for some reason. She had also shown me how she pulled her D-sword out of thin air. It had been neither a hallucination nor a delusion. After showing me something like that, there was no way I could still label her as a mental case. However, Ayase had also said this. That strange phenomenon. Had it been my delusion coming to fruition? Admittedly, right before it happened, I had been pondering about the color of Ayase's underwear.
理想度は力を持つ人のみにしか映らない。君には私の剣が見えているでしょう。それが意味するのは一つだけ。
Maybe that was what Ayase had been talking about when she mentioned the power. A power that projected delusions into reality. Maybe I had that power. Another one. I don't remember what I chose here. So I'm just going to go ahead and save again. And in case I choose incorrectly, I can reload. I'm going to go with red. And I chose incorrectly. Surprise, surprise. Leaving Rimi to stare at the PC screen with her eyebrows furrowed, I picked up the toy D-sword sitting in the corner of my room. I went to stand there in the center of my room, and brought my sword to eye level like I was an ESO character. I closed my eyes. Now, if I were Rimi and I were watching you doing this, I would sneak up to you and bop you on the head. I tried to conjure the image of a sword in my mind. I naturally imagined it to be something similar to the beautiful, sinister swords that Sena and Ayase had, each complete with a sharpness that could sever anything it touched. Oh, hey! It's his D-sword. Well, damn. Now I'm wishing I chose a positive delusion the first time around. I could have seen a sword early. Having delusions was my specialty. Wait a minute. Is that a palm tree that I see right in the middle of the sword there? It looks like a palm tree to me. After all, I had all sorts of delusions on a daily basis. If I wanted to, I could recreate every single detail both vividly and clearly in my mind. Once the image was as precise as it was going to get, I planted my feet, gritted my teeth, and tried grasping the sword, the power I now held in my hands. Become real. 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 I prayed inside my head, devoting all my thoughts toward that one single wish. What I'm holding is a real D-sword. It's not fake. It's real. I infused the strength of my entire being into the blade. Come, reveal yourself to me. Grant me salvation. Protect me. I slowly opened my eyes. The sword I was holding hadn't changed whatsoever. It was still the same cheap-ass toy.
そりゃそうだよな。
There's no such thing as an evil eye-esque psychic power that turned delusions into reality. It was way too chuny. What was I, 5? No, you're 2. I felt ashamed to have ever thought I held such a power. Heaving a long sigh, I lowered the sword. But right as I did, I sensed a gaze behind me. Whose eyes are those eyes? I could feel chills on the back of my neck. Goosebumps rose across the entirety of my body. The gaze again? That was a clear sign. A sign that, right at that moment, someone was watching me. Don't look at me. I wasn't going to turn around. Like I'd ever turn around. Not only had I sensed the presence, but I heard a voice as well. Though to be precise, it hadn't exactly been a voice. It'd been closer to a sigh. Don't tell me. I might have made a terrible mistake. I slowly, ever so slowly, turned around. And there was Rimi, staring right at me. So that was it. No wonder the sense of a presence had been more intense than usual. Granted, that only made sense, considering I wasn't just feeling like I was being watched. I was being watched. This was definitely going to get confusing. Oh God. Had Rimi seen me go full Chunibu? Brandishing a sword and all that? From start to finish? Mm-hmm. I was gonna die from embarrassment. Except, something was off about her. Rimi's brow furrowed, and she stared at me without blinking even once. However, it wasn't me she was looking at, but the object I held. The toy D-sword. Why did she look so serious? I wonder if you projected a delusion onto the sword that she's able to see. It felt like she was an entirely different person from the one who had been getting all confused about patents earlier. An unpleasant memory flashed through my mind. Rimi was on my side. She was supposed to be. However, I still hadn't solved the mystery surrounding her. Did Rimi know something about D-swords? With a gulp, I nervously called out to her.
Taku.
Her gaze still fixated on me. Rimi opened her mouth. Her voice was stifled, devoid of any and all emotion.
その件だけど
Rimi was my ally, wasn't she? Oh wait, is she gonna bait and switch us? She's gonna make a joke about it here, making us think she was being all dead serious for a second, only to just pull the rug from under our feet. She wouldn't betray me like Yua did, would she? Well, she might be, right now, just in a much more harmless fashion. Even if Rimi betrayed me, I'd...
捨てた方がいいと思う。
どうして？
My voice nearly cracked. Did Rimi know something after all?
だって
Rimi's gaze finally moved, but this time, it landed squarely on my eyes. I hurriedly averted my own. What was she going to say?
だってもう高校生だし。
Called it! Rimi suddenly broke into a grin. A very mischievous grin. The abrupt change in demeanor left me speechless. I still would have snuck up on him and bopped him on the head while he was concentrating.
そりゃ男の子っていくつになってもそういうおもちゃが大好きなんだなってのはなんとなくわかるけど。
They're not toys, they're action figures!
さすがにそんな大きなおもちゃ一人で部屋で振り回してるのはどうかと思うよ。
They're not huge toys, they're bokehs!
それが許されるのは小学生までじゃない？
You don't have to be an elementary schooler in order to swing stuff at people, Rimi.
でも、タクの個人的な趣味を私の前で披露してくれたってのはちょっと嬉しいかも。私にだけ秘密を教えてくれたみたいで。
More like showing you a secret, but I digress. Details. Yada yada. What the hell, man? I got all scared for no reason. Nope, we got another one. Okay, flag tripped. So I'm pretty positive I selected a positive delusion for this flag tripping that we did the first time around. So why don't I trip something else and just ruin whatever good mood that you're in? Huh, Takumi? Doesn't that sound like fun? Oh, God damn it! What happened to my lucky streak of remembering / guessing the delusion triggers right? Where'd all my luck go? I was at a loss about what to do, so I opted to subtly examine Rimi's expression. Different outfit. What? What the? What the hell? What the hell? Looks to me like she's wearing some unbuttoned office work clothes. No, maybe that's just a school uniform shirt, now that I think about it. My mind went completely blank. I couldn't keep up with this sudden and outrageous turn of events. She could perceive this delusion, right? You know, being a gigglomaniac and all that. But is she just pretending not to, but deep down inside she is just turning beet red and just struggling to keep her composure? Now I feel bad for her. I couldn't keep up with this sudden and outrageous turn of events. I couldn't even lift a finger. The shock had rendered me unable to speak. Yes, there's a lot of things that are wrong right now, but the question is, where do we even start? In the blink of an eye, Rimi had stripped off her school jacket. Not just that, but upon taking a closer look, she removed her skirt too. If I examined her extreme outfit wasn't enough, she was also hugging her knees, making it look like she was completely commando. In other words, at this very moment, Rimi, who was sitting right next to me, with her head tilted, and her eyes on me, was covering her underwear with nothing more than a mere shirt. The first thing that popped into my head, which one, was the classic private tutor eroge, titled The Unrelenting Emily Sensei. The third chapter had a scene that went exactly like what I was experiencing right now. I think that something straight out of an eroge was actually happening to me in reality. Reality being the operative word here. What eroge was that from? Reality! WTF! Was this a delusion? An illusion? A distinction without a difference? Or was it legit? It's a legit distinction without a difference, yes. Hey now, careful with the zoom in function. Daddy YouTube might ban me if you keep this up. Regardless of whether it was a delusion or not, there was no mistaking that Rimi was dressed in an incredibly lewd outfit. Against my better judgment, my eyes aimed themselves toward her chest. The neck of her shirt went down to her breasts, and thanks to the angle I was looking at her from, I could see what was underneath. A bright pink bra. You have surprisingly large breasts, Sakihara-san. Wait, stop! She'll think you're a pervert if you ogle her like that. Don't look! Stop looking! I lowered my gaze. Yes, please, stop looking for... Oh no, this is worse! Shit! Oh god, please, YouTube, have mercy on me. Only to find myself looking at her hips. Holy fucking Jafuji. Well, she really wasn't wearing a skirt. Is that even a word that I just read? I can see your panties, Sakihara-san. What a simple, yet lovely pair. This would make for some excellent fat material. Oh god, my Johnson was starting to make himself very known. Her body had been giving off a nice scent for a while now, and how should I put it? The texture of her skin, combined with her amazing figure, it all puts 2D to shame. Was this the true power of the third dimension? She was hot as fuck. She seemed very capable of instantly obliterating the values I'd held dear until now. Even though I'd never been into 3D, nor had I ever planned to change that. Even though I'd only ever loved 2D characters, isn't life just more interesting when it just throws you curveballs like this, Takumi? Right now, Rimi held enough destructive power to fucking obliterate those lofty values with a single strike. Her faint breaths, which sounded almost aroused. That delicately swaying, lustrous hair. The way her chest rose and fell with each breath. The manner in which she seductively rubbed her thighs together. Those shimmering eyes. That pink tongue peeping out from her partially open lips. It was getting hard to breathe. My mind was in a complete utter dimension. What was this feeling? It was akin to that agonizing feeling of yearning I felt whenever I started an H scene in Eroge. I couldn't keep calm. Rimi called my name in a sickly sweet voice. My eyes were now permanently glued to her body. It was the first time I'd ever seen a physically mature girl up so close. What, does Ayase not count? Was Rimi trying to seduce me? Did she like me? If so, I had to admit, I wasn't a fan of how shamelessly she was going about it. I guess it was just I preferred love to come from the subtle nurturing of platonic affection. And once graduation arrived, that love would come to fruition through a bashful confession spoken under the yoke of legends. Well, that's surprisingly romantic of you to say. Having mustered so much courage to say that to me, she then cried tears of joy when I said yes, leading us to kiss, and then... While that was what I wanted, the current way things were going was far from platonic. I'm not gonna lie, didn't expect this level of romanticism from you, Takumi. I thought all you had was just lust on the brain. I got soda. Unable to endure the horniness any longer, I eagerly arose to my feet. He's standing erect and ready, people! Watch out! What did I have? What did I have? Was there anything in the fridge? I had some half-finished cola, but I drunk directly from the bottle, so it probably wouldn't be the best idea to give it to Rimi. I felt Rimi stand up behind me.
ちょっと行ってくる。
She was leaving? I frantically turned around to see Rimi, still dressed in that shameless outfit, opening the door to head outside. You know, I also just had another thought. Since to a normie, a delusion that a gigalomaniac manifesting would just be perceived by said normie as though it was already there, like case in point, what happened with Takumi manifesting that flower bed to save Ayase in the previous story arc. If Rimi actually did go out into the streets right now, would everybody actually see a high school girl walking around in her underwear and unbuttoned shirt? That'd be scandalous, to say the least. But she does come back, but on the other hand, she does come back wearing her normal outfit in the last story arc too. So unless she fixed the delusion, so to speak, with her own powers, then yeah. I feel like I'm missing something here. She was going to go to the convenience store while people could see her panties? She wasn't normal. Was Rimi an exhibitionist or something?
露出狂?
Uh-oh. Did I say that out loud just now? Hearing that behind me made me literally jump in the air and land on my ass. There stood Rimi, who should have been just about to leave the room. Not only that, but she was wearing her usual outfit, and was all fully on. She looked down at me with wide eyes.
びっくりした。急に大声出さないでよ。さっきから変だよ。一人でブツブツ言い出したかと思ったら急に大声上げるし。どうかしたの?
I think you know, Rimi. You don't need to play dumb. This interesting yet fine gentleman that you're trying so hard to save is just being himself. You can be honest. You can even be repulsed. But it would be nice all the same if you could just be honest. Why was Rimi there now? She should have just been about to leave the container. Had that half-naked Rimi been a delusion? Ding, 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 ding! What do we have here, Johnny? But she felt so real. I hadn't touched her, but merely looking at her skin made me think how squishy and soft it'd be if I touched it. Wait, what the hell was I saying? I was losing my mind today.
ねえ、タク。
I cringed when she called my name. Did she hate me now? What would I do if she was already fed up with me? If Rimi wouldn't stay with me, I wouldn't even be able to go out alone anymore.
私、喉乾いてきちゃった。
I have half-drunk soda.
何か飲み物ある?
She asked me the exact same thing as before. However, rather than that sultry tone from before, her voice was perfectly normal now. I shook my head from side to side. Rimi poked her temple with her index finger and pursed her lips in thought.
ないなら買ってこようかな。コンビニって深センの駅前にあったよね。ちょっと行ってくる。
She gave me a big smile, then left without waiting for my response. I could only watch her leave in a daze. She was going to the convenience store in uniform, which was completely normal. That half-naked Rimi from before really had been a delusion. I felt a mixture of both relief and slight disappointment. But that half-naked Rimi, Ayase splitting in two. What kind of mechanism was capable of reproducing those delusions accurately enough to feel real? It's complicated. Had it been that, though? Did I have powers or not? And if I did, how could I actively use them? How could I obtain a D-sword? I was still stuck deep in a maze of questions, unable to do anything but wander around aimlessly. Oop. Looks like my laptop fell asleep. Well, that was fun. Alright, where am I? Still in chapter 5, huh? Come to think of it, what the hell was up with her acting so sexual before? It felt way too real to be called a hallucination. No matter how much I tried to convince myself otherwise, I just couldn't get over how sexy it was. It wasn't like I'd stared at them or anything, liar. But I could definitely say that I'd seen the folds in her panties. As a self-proclaimed panty expert, albeit only for figures, I knew how realistic those folds had been. They had a level of detail you wouldn't see in a delusion. Fuhihihi. Okay, you know what? Who cares about dumb shit like that? You do, apparently. Just forget it. Bang. Ah, I remember this. Oh, hey there, Kozapi. I think this is number 24, if I remember right. So I'm still on chapter 5, yeah. Just to be on the safe side, I'll put in there save there. The guide is saying negative. So let's do negative. I think what I'll do is I'll get through chapter 6 in its entirety, and then I will put a stop to today's episode. Anyway, I see Shogun is saying hello to us again. Let's see. Says I should select a positive. Forgot I even did positive here. First time around, too. Okay, the next two aren't listed on the guide, so I guess I'll have to use my own judgment here. I I want to say I selected a positive first time around, so let's see if I remembered right. Yep, got it this time. I could feel Sena's breath on my cheeks. She was so close, she could rip out my throat of her teeth just like that. Nom 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 nom. Why was this girl so violent and terrifying? Because she's on a mission, my friend. And anyone can be terrifying when they're on a mission.
なぜこの
I flailed my arms around as hard as I could, and I inadvertently ended up smacking Sena on the cheek. Oh! Yeah, this isn't actually happening, but all the same, though. That was awfully ballsy of you. To smack Sena, of all people. The impact sent her backward, and she fell to the ground. Hard. Oof. She pressed her hand against her head and looked up at me. Long gone was the endless confidence from a few moments ago. All there was now was fear. Her eyes were moist. Beside this never-before-seen vulnerability lit a sadistic fire in me like no other. All the frustration that had been building inside me had at last found a way to escape, and now it could flow out all at once.
僕を舐めるな
My words were undeniably aggressive. They are words I would normally never use, but I had said them to her. And it felt good. Refreshing even.
悪かった。でも叩くなんてひどいだろ。
Sena looked like she was about to cry, something that only fueled me even more. The way she was slumped down on the floor. The way her skirt was hiked farther up on her legs, exposing more of her thighs' skin than could normally be seen. The way her long black hair flowed down and spilled outward on the ground. All of it aroused me. All of it.
僕がやられてばかりだと思ったのか確かに見た目は明らかに弱そうだもんな僕は明らかなドキュンを相手にするより僕みたいな弱そうなやつをいじめる方が楽だし楽しいだろう調子に乗りやがって僕だってやるときはやるんだぞこのビッチがいつまでも黙ってばかりだと思うなよ
I couldn't stop the rage swelling inside me. I wanted to mess this arrogant slut up even more. I got on top of Sena, who was still lying on the ground.
何を
うるさい
I grabbed both her wrists, pinning her down. Having locked her in place, she looked up at me from directly beneath me. Until now, she'd always been looking down on me. Well, who's looking down on who now, bitch? This feeling of superiority made me almost dizzy.
やめろよ話せ
Her phrasing was as blunt as ever, but her voice lacked any actual power. Was she crying? Well, she was no match for me, a man in terms of pure strength. What else could she do? I don't know, I think even Kozubi could kick your ass even without her D-sword.
頼むこんなことやめろお願い
I couldn't hold back my laughter. Now, I was the one in control. I could do whatever I wanted with her. I never knew there existed such a wonderful world. Why had I never done this before? What had I been afraid of? I've been a fool for keeping a fruit so sweet locked away for so long.
たっぷり可愛がってやるよ。
おい、無視するな。
When I returned to my senses, instead of being on top of Sena, she was still grabbing me by the chest and pushing me against the playground equipment. I was somewhat confused about how the tables had suddenly turned.
その力のことを誰に教わったんだって聞いているんだ。
I didn't remember her asking anything like that. Maybe that scenario from earlier was just a delusion I'd used to escape reality? Maybe? Despite me still trying to wrap my head around the situation, Sena started shaking me violently.
誰からだ？答えろ！天聖信仰会とは関係あるのか？ないのか？
Divine Church of the what now? I shook my head reflexively. I can't breathe. You're choking me. I'm gonna pass out. I'm gonna die. I'm done for. The table has been flipped and you're being crushed underneath its weight. Just before I lost consciousness, Sena suddenly let go of me, and I collapsed to the ground. I kept on coughing, struggling desperately to get oxygen in my lungs. Contrary to the delusion I just had, I was in a hopeless situation. Was Sena my enemy after all? Was she another one of Shogun's underlings? If she was, then I had to run away.
関係ないならいい。悪かった。
Noticing my confusion, Sena clicked her tongue lightly, then let out a sigh. And then, without saying another word, she went to leave. Suwa and Hazuki suddenly went silent, then looked up at the ceiling. They then looked back down and stared at each other. After Suwa sighed, Hazuki's perplexed expression suddenly changed.
見られていたな。
その目誰の目？ね。
Suddenly, an air of familiarity was injected into the words that the two exchanged. The sense that the two could not be anything other than old friends was loaded into their every word.
西條匠のオリジナルは見つかったか？
いいえ、この病院内にいることは分かっているのに。これ、カルテよ。彼は無遊病だわ。
In sharp contrast to how resistant she had been to hand it over before, Hazuki readily passed the medical record to Suwa. She had already had it in her possession, as if she had somehow predicted that Suwa would pay her a visit.
助かる。じゃあ予定通りにオーフロントに奴を誘導して覚醒させるか。
接触するの？
ああ、顔は隠すけどな。
With a mischievous smile, Suwa placed a gentle kiss on Hazuki's lips. What the?
コスプレしてパーティーに出発だ。
Wait a minute. Suwa mentioned to Ayase in the first round that he had a girlfriend, didn't he?
しかも女からだし。付き合って4年になるラブラブの彼女がいるんですよ。
Well, I didn't know you had a girlfriend. She must have poor taste, dating a schmuck like you. That's Hazuki? Well, shit. I was not expecting that. I thought they were just partners in crime. Wait a minute. Then the child she had... Is Suwa the father? If Suwa's the father of the child that they used in the man-child murder, then, well, holy shit. And here I thought that particular murder could get any more screwed up than it already was in my head. But oh no. Guess I'll just have to wait and see if we can get some actual confirmation on this. Because if I'm right, then, again, I don't know what else are to say than, holy shit, it's more fucked up than I thought it was. Nothing mentioned here in the guide, so... I'm just gonna save here again as a precaution. Oh, wait. Looks like I made a mistake. Oh, shit, not that. I didn't want neutral. Yeah, maybe I'll do, later on I'll do a quick run through the whole story here, doing nothing but neutral the whole way through. But for now, I'm not gonna do that. Nanami still wasn't answering. Please pick up. Pick up the phone already. Oh, she picked up.
Nanami でしょ。返事しろよ。今どこにいるんだ。大丈夫なの。何か言ってよ。Nanami!
I called out desperately to the other end of the line, but the voice that answered back.
少しは落ち着いたら?
Shogun? That voice was Shogun.
なんて
I was horrified. I didn't want to accept it. I'd called Nanami's phone, but Shogun had answered. Completely dumbfounded. It took all I had just to say the same thing I had before.
なんで
メールの意味がわからなかったのかな。
信じない。
Wait, so that email actually did belong to Shogun after all? I thought that was Suwa's work.
こんなの信じない。
Oh, never mind. It's a delusion. Well, bastard, he tricked me. Well, yeah, that's because it wasn't happening. It'd been just a delusion. A delusion featuring the worst scenario I could think of. But reality wasn't too far off. Because, yeah, I mean, like, because this is Nanami we're talking about. If Shogun had any actual hand in her kidnapping, that would blatantly go against everything that we understood about his character, all the way up to the big revelations that were, you know, revealed during the last chapter of the first arc. Because he cared about Nanami. Getting her kidnapped and put into Rose's hands would be a massive contradiction in that characterization, to put it lightly. But reality wasn't too far off. Nanami still hadn't picked up, and the sound of someone's ringtone continued to echo throughout the room. The melody was a happy-go-lucky one, something that was in harsh contrast to my current state of mind. sense of dread within me was growing. There was no getting around it. Nanami's phone was in this room. I couldn't think of any other explanation. I couldn't avert my eyes from reality anymore. Alright, here we are again at the O front. The guide is telling me to go with a neutral option this time. Wait a minute. Yeah, okay. Neutral. Alright, neutral it is. It sounded like fans cheering from the bleachers at a soccer game, or maybe a volleyball game. The entirety of the Dokuns who had gathered in Scramble Crossing had all begun chanting in unison. Maybe this was planned from a planned part of the event, or maybe Shogun had mind-controlled them into doing it. They all followed the same rhythm as they raised their hands overhead and shouted the same words. They were all insane. I was horrified. The chant wasn't stopping. In the midst of their chant, I could hear the high-pitched voices of female Dokuns. As I listened closely, I noticed the one thing they all had in common. They were all making fun of me. To them, they were just having fun and laughing to their hearts' content. Everything was fine as long as they were having fun. A festival dedicated to my sacrifice. A true shit show. All I wanted to do was join in, make fun of myself the way everyone else was. Every last one of them was a Dokun. Noe would be coming to my rescue. Everyone who'd come here wished for my death. Crowd psychology was going to kill me. Not out of hatred or fury, but simply because that was what everyone else wanted to see. Well, fortunately, the guide has given me some very helpful information on the prompts to use, but it looks to me like the answers that I have to say here are the exact same ones I had to use in order to get through the first time around. So, let's just go right on ahead and get on through it, shall we? Looks like I don't have to worry about any more delusions now for this chapter, at least. I think I selected a positive delusion the first time around, so let's see what happens when I select negative. But Nanami. Huh? Well, Nanami's my precious little sister, so... No.
それだけ。タッキーに何か害が及ぶ？
Honestly, yes. He probably would be, actually. No.
自分の命と他人の命とどっちが大事？死んだらさ、世界が終わるんだよ。タッキーにとっての世界が終わるの。わかる？死んだらあとは何も残らない。死後の世界なんてない。天国もない。生まれ変わることもない。ただタッキーっていう一人の動物の生命活動が終わって、タッキーはもう世界を観測できなくなるんさ。それって世界が終わるってことっしょ？つまりさ、タッキーが死んだらタッキーが観測してたナナミッチもどうせ消えるってことなんだよ。ナナミッチだけじゃない。リミッチもアヤセッチも、それにあたしも、みんな消える。でもナナミッチが死んだだけならタッキーは消えないで済むし、タッキーの世界も消えないで済むんさ。ブラチューの最終回もちゃんと見られるし、来年発売予定のブラチューのゲームも私の新作フィギュアもちゃんと買える世界が残るんさ。ねえタッキー、死にたい？死にたくない？
What a bitch. Well, now we're on chapter 7. Actually, you... Okay. Well, I was just about to stop because I just realized that if I kept going, I could have gone to a whole new scene that could have been added and that could have been interspersed throughout the story, and probably would have tripped me up a little bit if I just load into the game next time and not have any proper context as to what I'm here. But I think thinking about it now, I don't think it really matters. So it looks to me, well, according to the guide here, I have to make a negative choice here. But we're going to actually continue this next time. And we'll see what happens then. So, Hazuki, you and Sua are actually a pair, are you? Is the child that you forcibly aborted and used in your man-child murder, does that child belong to, did that child also belong to Sua by any chance? Was he the baby daddy? Because I gotta say, if that's indeed the case, then you two are both you're both a lot more fucked up in the head than I initially realized. Just sacrificing your child like that, and especially in such a fashion too. There's a special circle of hell for people like you, is all I'm saying. Doesn't make, but even if that wasn't his child, it's still, I mean, it doesn't make it any, it doesn't make it any better, it wouldn't make it any better if it wasn't, let's be real here. I just have to know, okay? There's just that part of me, there's just that little part of my brain here that is just morbidly curious now. But again, I'll save the curiosity for next time. So I don't really feel like I had a whole lot of meaningful things to really say or comment on this time around. But all the same, I hope you got, those of you who checked this episode out, enjoyed the latest episode of Chaos Head Noah. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button. And I will see you all next time. Take care.